All right, hey you guys, John Britt here. Hey, I'm gonna do this video here on glaze exploration for you. It's gonna be called Crater Glaze Exploration because I found this tile from a student who took the class in Portland. They made up this beautiful glaze, which I really like. It cracks and it's real kind of foamy like, but it also doesn't fall off. It's very stiffly on there. So I'm going to show you the ways that I do that. You can try it yourself. The thing is, there's no final outcome. Hey, I got it, because I didn't get it. But I got 20, 30, 40 other glazes in the meantime, and that's what I wanted to show you, is how you can find your own glazes this way. But before I do that, I want to tell you, I'm having this workshop up in Kettle Creek Pottery at Stroudsburg, PA, July 18th to 20th, 2025. So if you're watching this, it might be later than that. And we got a couple spots left open. It's the only class I have left with spots open, except for one I'm having in Barcelona in November, but that's for European people. But anyway, you can call them or go on my website, johnbrittpottery.com, and I have a link for you there. So that should be a fun workshop. It's only an hour and a half from New York, so if anybody's in the New York area, they may be able to swing over. All right, let me bring this camera over, and I'm going to try not to mess anything up. And also I'm going to do a little differently than mostly. Mostly what I do is I go pretty fast because people move fast these days, but this time I'm going to go slow and just show you. So if you are interested, you can hang in there. If not, that's all right. So here was my glaze that I made. Here's the original recipe. So this is Pinel Crater. And normally we just do this. We add titanium and silicon carbide, 600 mesh, to get it to foam up. Well, in this case, I added 20 stain because I wanted to get it, that got moved a little. The stain is 6485. The stain is in there because when I've run this in the past, here is the normal way I'll run this color blend. I'll make the base with the like I said, with the titanium, the silicon carbide, nephsite ball clay, strontium, lithium, and silica. I'll make 1,000 grams. I pour it into 10 cups. And then and that's called easy glaze testing, by the way. I have a video on here showing you that. But I'll add red iron and titanium, rutile, manganese, chrome and tin, copper, zircopax, chrome, cobalt, and stain. Okay, so then you can see I get varying degrees of cratering. You know, some things like stains are stiff, so they'll help it crater more. It'll foam up and won't heal. So is chrome. That's a refractory. That helps stiffen it. So is zircopax. This is a flux. This is a lot of tin, so that causes it to be stiff also. Rutile. So you can see varying degrees. Now, with a crater glaze, the thickness is a main variation, and the speed, so this is cone 6, E1 is the cycle. Now what I did then later was I noticed how nice this was with 8% stain, how foamy it got. So I said, well, if a little is good, more is better. So then I would do 5% of this stain, 6001, 6001, and then I added 10%, put it on real thick. So that foamed up super good. Then I did burnt umber, which is like a form of iron and manganese, ochreous earth. And then I did, this is a inclusion stain, so it was like super weird. Anyway, then I did it with another stain, 6225. That's 5 and 10. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to go a lot. So I did 5, 10, 15, 25 of stain 64, 33. So that foams a lot. Also, I put it on real thick. There's my firing cycle called it's strontium, Pinel strontium matte, but then I just added silicon carbide to get it to become Pinel crater. So it's not really his crater, I just made it up that way. So let's go back to what we're doing then. Then that's the setup. Then here is the tile that I wanted. It's very nice. It doesn't crack off. It's like super good. So then I thought, so they made that recipe, but it's with different materials. Who knows if the scale was working? Who knows if the materials were the same? I don't know. So that's why I tried to figure it out. So we had 2 tiles from that. Looked really good. And then I also saw this tile was from that set, and it did foam up. So that's why I was a bit confused. Why didn't this one foam up as much as that? Because here was another one from that set. This was with, poured a bunch of copper in there. All right, so then I came home, so I said to myself, I'm going to run the whole set that we ran up there. These are different colorants, but I ran it, and I thought, well, maybe it was the cone firing, because when I fire at these workshops, there's 900 tiles in there, and so it goes slower than a normal firing. And it could have been in a spot where it didn't get as much heat or something. So I thought, I'm going to just try this exact thing they did and see what I get. So I did, and it's nothing like it. So then I fired it to 4 and 3. So the original was cone 6. I thought, well, maybe it didn't get hot enough because this did not foam up very much. But that was not it. I mean, this is it still foams. So that was interesting to see how low this would foam. I got another one even lower. I'll show you in a minute. All right, so then I said to myself, okay, maybe since the firing may not have been the cause, maybe it was one of the ingredients. And so then what I just said about doing was changing these ingredients some, because sometimes what people do is they'll add too much titanium or too much silicon carbide, and these might be off a little. Who knows? They may have gotten buckets mixed up. So I started with this. I took the base with no silicon carbide, and I made it up, put it on real thick. So that cracked a little but didn't foam, so that was good. So then what I did was I added the titanium, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And so this is my tile set. So I have the stain in there and the titanium, and this is real nice. This is really nice cracking. But of course, nothing like what I was after, which is this one. But still, this would be a really good glaze, a cracky glaze. So these are not functional. These are for sculptural things. All right, so then I said, well, what if they made a mistake and added magnesium carb instead of strontium carb? So I left that out, and then I added, there's no silicon carbide in here either, and then I added mag carb to see what kind of cracking I would get. So this is like the base with mag carb. So that flattened that out pretty good. Then I added it 5, 10, 15, 25. So this is just a classic mag carb glaze. Lichen glaze, we call it. It's really sharp edges, but it's nice. All right, so then I said to myself, I mixed these cups. I took this cup, since I have the cup sitting there, I took this cup and I mixed it with this cup. I put a quarter of it in, and then a half a cup, then the whole cup, and then all of them together. So this is a blend of this T12 and T6 50-50. So that and that make this, which is similar, a little more flaky. Just so you know, the reason this one looks weird is I refired it and rubbed iron in there. I wanted to see what it would look like if I refired it. All right. And so then I said, well, maybe it's the flux was not correct. So what happens if I flux this one out a little more? So I took that, I had poured these two cups together, and then I just started adding frit to it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10%, which was actually interesting because it started it to bubble weird. So the fluxing helped it bubble like this. I'm not sure the explanation there, but that's what happened. All right? So undeterred, I came in again. I took the crater, put in the, I wanted to see if the silicon carbide was different, because they could have used a different mesh size, or they could have not had enough, or they could have not stirred the cup and the silicon carbide sort of fell to the bottom, and then the dips were not like a homogeneous mix, and so that's why this tile, which is what I'm searching for, did not look the normal way. So this time I decided I'm going to add silicon carbide in a progression. I like doing progressions because I only add one thing. So in this case, I add, instead of 2.5 silicon carbide, here I added 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, and 2. So you can see that this just starts to be the correct crater-looking type glaze that these are at 2. So the original had 2.5, so it's super close. And then I thought, well, maybe one of these would look like this one, which it might possibly here with a little more cracking. So that is a possibility. I could retry this one and just put it on, maybe even less than this, which would be possible, and thicker. Okay? So I'm a little disappointed in that whole situation. So I said, well, what else could I change in that recipe? So I took Pinnell Crater again, and I left out the silicon carbide, and I said to myself, well, maybe they added bentonite, and they added too much. Because sometimes we'll do that to keep things suspended, you know. So here I just took the recipe, left out the silicon carbide, and I added 2% bentonite. And you see why on the back side these are different is because when you're scooping, you're basically like taking a spoon of it. And so this is usually thicker than the other side. Depends on how people dip, of course. Like if you know, just dip straight down, that's one thing. But a lot of times people tip the cup and then they put it in like this. All right, then I added 4%. See how the back side is at 6%. Starting to get nice and cracky. 8%. Possible. 15%. 20%. Now it's starting to really flake off. You can see on the side, but it's not falling off, so that's hopeful. So then I said to myself, okay, maybe cracking is also caused from ball clay. Any clay will help cause cracking. Hey, sorry about the sun here, but it's decided to come out. It might be good, but it's pretty bright. So what I did was I put in 20% ball clay in the recipe, and that caused some cracking. But it's not flaking off, so that's good. This one is trying to flake off. That's 40% ball clay added to this recipe, just in case you forgot where we're at. All right. So not the answer. So then what I said to myself, well, what if I add sand to this? Because, you know, I got looking at this tile, and then I'll think about it, and I'll say, well, what makes that different? Because it's kind of puffy, but it's also, I don't know, what else could I make it stand up a little? So I said, I'm going to add some white sand to this. So I added 3%, added 6, 9, 12, and up to 30. And it's interesting, if you like cracky surfaces, but it's not the one. Now, just as an overview, you can see how many tiles I have here, and how many failed tests I have, but how many could be really good tests. Like maybe you want something like that. Maybe you're just exploring crater. Maybe you're in school and you're just exploring crater. There you go. That's kind of nice. And then also the reason I do it thin is so you can see what it's like, thin and thick. Now remember, this is very thick. Okay, so that's where we're at with that. Now what I did, I took the sand, I did the sand route, and then I added silicon carbide also to see if that would help puff it up. It did puff it up, but it's not anything like what I was after. And then what I did was I ground this with a stone to see what it looked like underneath. I wanted to see what, you know, this looks like underneath and what this looks like underneath. Okay. So let's see, where was I at? 24. So this was 20. This was cup T24, and I just fired it lower. T24 was over here. Let me see which one of these. Oh, here's T24 was when I put these together, I think. 11, 13. 24 must have been up here. I've lost my 24. But it's just like this one. It's very similar to this one. And then I fired it lower. So this one is fired to cone 01. So you remember when I said I was going to try to fire all these tiles. This was fired at 3. This was fired at 4. Those were fired at 6. And this is 01. And then I also fired the cup number 37 because I wanted to see if maybe the silicon carbide would foam less and then it would look more like this. And it's trying to. I don't know. I guess I could go lower, but I'm not thinking that's it. Incidentally, this is where sodium volatilizes, just so you know. That's why it looks like that. It's a halo there. That's from Nephsi sodium. All right, so then what happened was I was disappointed, sad. And so I said, well, let me try another thing that makes a crawl type glaze, and that is this bone ash. When they put in bone ash 77 in this crawl glaze called Scotchy Crawl, that's the recipe. The only thing I did not like about this recipe is it has this cryolite in it, which is very toxic, gives off fluorine gas, which is not good. And so I thought, well, maybe I can do it without it. So I left it out, and then I just fired it, added silicon carbide to see what the foaming would look like. But it just flakes off. There's not enough flux to hold it on. And here's the original. This is just super nice glaze. It's the original, and I have the stain in it. So it's just very nice. So I fire outside, so it's probably not as toxic as, but if people are firing inside, you can see it's gassing off more here. That's where it goes off. All right, so then I said to myself, okay, what if I take the Scotchy glaze, sub in nephsi, so that gives me some flux. And then I'm going to run that. I'm going to add more and less flux and see what I get. So here I added 5% nephsi. Here, I'm sorry about me being crooked here, but it's hard for me to, let me try this. Oh, there we go. Okay, there's 5 and here's 10. Now what happened here, I did 15 more nephsi than the 13.6 there, and it's pretty good, and it's thin. So that's got possibilities for a recipe. If it gets too thick, it's going to flake off. And then here is where I added 20% nephsi. It's trying to flake. Anytime it gets thick, it's trying to flake off. Okay, then what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to try it with some more frit, and then I'm going to try variations of flock and deflock. And then I tried it on different bodies too. I always do that just to see. So here is 10. You can see these are super flaking off. Let me just turn these over for you. I forgot, I did them the wrong way. That's actually pretty good like that. Let's see if I can. So this one is adding, this is adding 5% frit 3134, which is not bad. It's pretty good, but it's not like what I'm after, of course. Then these tried to flake off real bad, but thin is pretty good. And then, so I did 5, 10, 12, 15. And then what I did was I added some more nephsi to see maybe that would help. I always just try it. Now that's not too bad. So maybe this recipe would be okay with an added 15 of 3134 and 5 more nephsi. So 18.6 nephsi and 15 3134. And then you would just retotal that in Glazing, and that would be your recipe. Then what I did was I deflocculated it so I could see what that would do, because that thins it out pretty. The application becomes very thin, and that's kind of nice. Not at all what we're after, but and then on a darker body, kind of nice. Yeah, that's kind of like, that might be nice for like a rusty metal can type thing. And then I flocked it up to see what that would do. And that is not bad. That's trying to be there. So now that I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, well, maybe what happened is the original recipe here, maybe it got flocculated up a bunch and not as much silicon carbide. So I still can test this and see by looking at these tiles, get ideas. But you can see here that I've got, I don't know, 150 glazes, all with varying amounts of, cracking. Now I might include some of these when I'm going to do a Hage glaze. It's a crawl type glaze. I'm going to do that. I might include these because the way this oversupplying with titanium causes this surface, it's very nice. So that's titanium additions. Here's mag carb additions. Here is, Like here's clay addition, so that gives you a different cracking surface. Here's bentonite additions. I don't know why it's kind of puffing up more. Then there's no silicon carbide in there. So it's quite possible, you know, that this could be some version of that. Not sure. Anyway, so that might be more than you needed or not. It might be a waste of your time, but I find it interesting how doing these just incremental progressions gets me so many different surfaces, especially for non-functional stuff. You don't really have to worry about, you know, you don't have to worry about functionality and all that, and you're just looking at surface. All right, I guess that's all I got for today. You kids, we will see you on the next round, and you can see here that I hope by next time you make me 150 tiles like this, and I want you to give all the glazes a name too. You can see why I don't name glazes, because I would run out, and you see why people just number them. So that's the story. Maybe see you at my workshop here. All right, take care.